Welcome back to Chapter 2, Session 2 of Core Purpose. Okay, now what we want to do is we're now going to be talking about money and if money is really the problem. Now remember, we've actually started this with the previous chapter when we were talking about poverty. And we're starting to develop the realization that poverty necessarily isn't just about money, that it's about a lot of different things. So let's talk a little bit more about this just so that we can be really clear on this. Okay, so we have physical poverty and mental poverty. And so what I want to do is talk about the difference between the two. So when you're doing this, I want you to write down these ideas and suggestions as we're having this kind of one-way discussion, but you're having a discussion, but you're just sending it to me telepathically. Okay, and so under physical poverty, what does physical poverty look like? And so I would say that there are things like maybe poor health, poor clothing. These are things, if you see somebody and you think that they're in poverty, what kind of pictures do you have of maybe not very nice housing, maybe the clothes I think I mentioned are not in very good condition, maybe poor hygiene, they're depressed, maybe there's some depression involved. Maybe they don't have good relationships, maybe they have what are some other things that you think that you would put down if you think that somebody is in physical poverty? And so you're going to write that list down, okay? Now, so when we've created this list, we have a whole list of things that remind us, or at least are indicators to us, that this person is in some sort of physical poverty, okay? Okay, let's look at poverty, the poverty mentality. Now, in the poverty mentality, this is a little bit different. And so, but in order to really understand what a poverty mentality is, I have to tell you a story. And so I'm going to tell you a story that's a true story, and then we can take from that story and see if there's some identifying markers that would indicate that there's more poverty or if the poverties are similar. Okay, so I have a friend, and she was married to this guy whose mother-in-law, or his mother, so that would make it her mother-in-law, was very wealthy. And so she actually owned one of the banks in the local communities, and so she had a lot of property, and she was just very wealthy. But you wouldn't really know it when you saw her. So she would walk down the street, and in all the years that my friend knew her, she had the same clothing on. So she had the same shirt, the same skirt, and so she must have bought a bunch of them, or maybe the fabric for those and made them herself, I don't know. But and literally year after year, she wore the same outfit every day, same shoes, same haircut. And she would walk down the street and she would see things like maybe a glove was on the road, and so she'd pick up the glove, and maybe it was missing 3 fingers or so because it had been run over by a car many times and it was really dirty. So she'd go home and wash them, and then she would give it to people for gifts. And so she would say, hey, I know it's missing 3 fingers, you know, in the glove, but the other 2 fingers will stay warm. And so, you know, and then she would find sunglasses that were broken, and she would try to repair those and give those as gifts to people as well. And so she didn't really, you know, have a really good reputation in terms of, you know, being generous. And so on this particular occasion, I was having a Thanksgiving meal with this family. And so I said, well, why don't we invite your mother-in-law? And she was like, no, I don't want to invite her because first of all, she won't come. And second of all, if she does come, it's just not going to be very pleasant. And so we just don't want her to come. And I felt really bad about that. And I said, look, we gotta invite this lady. This is just wrong. You cannot just leave her out. Let's go ahead and have her come to our Thanksgiving meal. Now, if you're not from America, what you have to understand is that the turkey in the American Thanksgiving meal is kind of like the most important thing. And so, at least in our household, if you are able to, you know, bring the turkey, if you're saying, hey, I'm gonna buy the turkey, I'm gonna cook the turkey and bring the turkey, it's like you're the queen for the day. And so a lot of times people spend a lot of money on their turkey, or at least they'll spend a lot of time on their turkey. They'll put it in brine. They'll just really prepare it. That is the perfect turkey. And so it's really important to take care of that turkey. So they agreed to let me invite her. So I invited her, and she accepted. And she said, oh my gosh, I'm just so glad that you invited me. Nobody ever invites me to anything, and I really get lonely. And so, yes, I'd like to come. And can I bring the turkey? I thought, wow, I can't believe this. We broke through something here. And I said, you know what? This would be a great idea. Why don't you bring the turkey? So I go back to my friend and I go, you're not going to believe it. Your mother-in-law is going to come and she's bringing the turkey. So she was obviously very excited about that. She thought, I just can't believe it. So Thanksgiving comes, we're all together. And the mother-in-law comes, and of course she brings this beautiful turkey, puts it on the table, and we're all like admiring this beautifully cooked turkey. And so we're all sitting around the table and talking. Then we start eating, and you can kind of see some funny expressions on people's faces, and probably mine as well. It's like, not so sure about this, but we just continued with our pleasantries and kept talking. And so dinner was over, and it was time for her to go. And I said, you know what, I just want to, thank you for coming to the dinner. It was wonderful. Thank you for providing the turkey. We just had a great time. And she said, you know what? She said, I can't thank you enough for letting me come, because I've been so lonely at holidays. And I really, really enjoyed today. It was like a big memory for me. And thank you for letting me bring this turkey, because quite honestly, it's been in my deep freeze for 6 years and I was ready to get it cooked up. That's right. So we had a problem. Everyone looks at me and they're hoping that I get food poisoning first. And so, yes, so we have this very old turkey that we ate. And in the end, she was happy that she came. Everybody else was not happy. And I questioned the whole experience, but I learned from it. And so let's talk about what happened to this woman. Now, let's make a comparison between the two uh, columns that we have here. So in one column under physical poverty, you've listed a bunch of different things, like maybe poor clothing, poor hygiene, no transportation, maybe no utilities, maybe financial instability, unhealthy relationships, or hanging out with the wrong people, or not having any relationships at all. And just all those things that you'll list under physical poverty. And so, maybe poor food quality, that type of thing. So let's look over at the poverty mentality and let's ask ourselves this question. Okay, so this mother-in-law, let's see what kind of qualities that she had. Did she have poor clothing? Yes. Did she have poor transportation? Well, she had a car and it was parked in her garage, but she would never drive it. And so when she wanted to go to another town that was a few miles away, she didn't want to drive her car because it took what? That's right, money to fill up her car with gas. And so she said she would call people up and say, hey, can you take me to Walmart or take me to another store because I don't want to drive. But she never offered to pay for fuel costs. Okay, so transportation was an issue for her. Okay, what about utilities? Okay, did she have utilities? Probably, but maybe she kept them at a low minimum. We don't know. And so did she have a house? She did, but we don't know what it looks like inside because she didn't let anybody in. Okay, so there was something going on there. And so did she have healthy relationships? No, because she had placed herself in a position to where people didn't want to be with her because they felt like it was going to cost them something to have a relationship with her. And so, so here we have in one column somebody that might not have any money, and because of that, they can't afford nice clothing, or maybe they're struggling with utilities, and so maybe their hygiene is bad, or it could be a number of different things. And then on the other hand, you have this other type of poverty where this woman is really wealthy. And so it's almost like the Ebenezer Scrooge situation, if you're familiar with that story. And so she had the money, but she didn't share it, and she didn't use it for what it's going to be used for. So she had this fear of loss. Okay, so we have this poverty thing happening. And so the question then we have to ask, what really happens with that? Okay, so is there any difference between the two types of poverty? There isn't. And so in fact they're very similar. There's only the only difference between the two types of poverty is that you have one person that doesn't have any money and the other person has money, but they're playing out poverty the same way. Okay, are there any similarities between the two poverty? Well, we've established that there are. Now, some people can go without a lot of money and still be happy. Why is this? Well, they're probably still fulfilling their life purpose. Okay, Graham. And so what we know is that there are differences between the two types of poverty. So what are the differences? Well, there's one. One has money, the other one doesn't, but they play out the same. So the similarities are very, very close. How can people have a lot of money and still be happy? Well, there are people that do not need a lot of money in order to live their life's purpose or to have a high quality of life. They've learned to be satisfied, or their world is, hey, this is what's important to me. I keep it, I invest in it, I make sure everything is safe about it. We're in good shape. And so money doesn't bring you happiness. It's a tool. Some people need more of it in order to advance what they want to do in life. And some people are like, I don't need it. I'm really good with what I'm doing. So money's not the problem. So what do you think the problem is? Do we know what the problem is? Okay. Okay, let's look. What do you think the problem is? It's the way we're thinking. And so this leads us to, am I stuck? Because some people get stranded in a way of thinking that says, this is the way it's got to be, and I'm not going to change anything at all with the way I'm thinking. And what happens is they become stuck. And so this woman that had a lot of money, she was stuck. She was stranded in her mindset. She was in poverty. So she lived like she was in poverty. And she missed out on a lot of opportunities to invest in people around her so that they could have a much higher quality of life, or invest in herself so that she could really enjoy quality of life. She worked very hard for what she received in this world. And so it's a shame that she just could not enjoy it. And so I want you to spend a couple of minutes and I want you to complete this page to decide, are you stuck or not? Because sometimes we don't think we're stuck, but we actually are. So what we talked about today was a little bit about the whole poverty thing, physical poverty versus mental poverty. The single difference between the two, the overriding principle between the two, is the way I think. And so think about the way you think. When I change what I think, I will change what I see and do.